Welcome back to the Echo of the Soul. There comes a moment in life when a person realizes they have been moving in the wrong direction. For years, they chase approval, attention, love, recognition, and acceptance. They believe happiness is waiting somewhere outside themselves, hidden in another achievement, another relationship, another person's validation. But the harder they chase, the further fulfillment seems to move away. One day, a question emerges that changes everything. What if the very act of chasing is the reason nothing stays? Most people never stop to consider this. They spend years trying to earn what they already possess. They shape their behavior around expectations. They adjust their personality to fit different rooms. They become experts at being what others want while slowly forgetting who they really are. The moment your peace depends on another person's approval, you surrender power. The moment your worth depends on being chosen, you stop choosing yourself. The moment you need something desperately, that thing gains control over your emotions. This is where suffering begins. Nobody enters the world believing they are incomplete. As children, we express ourselves freely. We laugh without permission. We dream without fear. We act without constantly wondering what everyone thinks. Then conditioning begins. We learn that praise feels rewarding and rejection feels painful. We learn which parts of ourselves are celebrated and which parts are criticized. Slowly, we start building a version of ourselves designed to receive approval. Without realizing it, many people become performers. They learn to read every expression. They monitor every reaction. They adjust themselves constantly in order to avoid discomfort. Over time, this becomes exhausting. The tragedy is not that they fail to please everyone. The tragedy is that they succeed while losing themselves in the process. A dangerous illusion begins to grow. The illusion that worth comes from outside. That confidence must be granted by others. That love must be earned through performance. That happiness depends on acceptance. But anything given by the outside world can also be taken away. And what can be taken away can never provide lasting security. This is why so many people live with quiet anxiety. They are not protecting their happiness. They are protecting the opinions that their happiness depends on. The turning point comes when a person stops asking the world who they are. Most people think confidence arrives after success. In reality, confidence is often built long before success appears. It grows every time you act according to your values despite fear. It grows every time you remain true to yourself despite criticism. Self-worth is not something you find. It is something you decide. The strongest people are not those who never experience rejection. They are those who refuse to let rejection define them. When someone leaves, they do not collapse. When someone disagrees, they do not lose themselves. When someone withholds approval, they do not panic. They understand that another person's opinion may describe them, but it cannot determine their value. The moment you become your own source of validation, everything changes. Relationships become healthier because they're no longer built on need. You stop interacting from desperation and begin interacting from choice. You no longer seek people to complete you. You connect with people because you're already complete. This is where real freedom begins. Many people misunderstand detachment. They assume it means becoming cold or indifferent. But true detachment has nothing to do with emotional distance. True detachment means caring deeply without becoming dependent. It means pursuing goals without allowing those goals to determine your worth. It means loving others without abandoning yourself. The attached mind constantly fears loss. It clings. It worries. It panics whenever circumstances change. The detached mind understands something different. Everything changes. Everything eventually leaves. Nothing in life can be possessed forever. Instead of resisting this reality, it accepts it. And because it accepts it, it becomes free. A detached person still loves. They still dream. They still work toward meaningful goals. The difference is that their identity does not depend on the outcome. Success does not make them valuable. Failure does not make them worthless. They remain steady regardless of circumstances. That steadiness becomes a source of strength that few people ever develop. In a world obsessed with constant noise, silence becomes a rare form of power. Most people explain too much. They react too quickly. They reveal everything they think and feel. They mistake exposure for authenticity. But there is wisdom in restraint. Not every opinion requires a response. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Not every challenge deserves your energy. The person who feels compelled to explain themselves to everyone is often seeking permission to exist. The person who knows who there no longer needs constant approval. Their silence carries weight because it comes from certainty rather than fear. They speak with intention. They act with purpose. They understand that presence becomes more valuable when it is not wasted. One of the greatest obstacles to personal freedom is the need to be liked. Many people spend years becoming whatever others expect them to be. They say yes when they want to say no. They avoid conflict at any cost. They sacrifice their own needs in order to maintain approval. Eventually, they wake up and realize they have built an entire life around someone else's comfort. The desire to please everyone is impossible to satisfy. The more you seek universal acceptance, the more disconnected you become from yourself. Every meaningful person throughout history faced criticism. Every person who stood for something important disappointed someone. The goal is not to avoid judgment. The goal is to stop being controlled by it. Some people will misunderstand you. Some people will dislike your boundaries. Some people will leave when you stop giving them unrestricted access to your energy. Let them. Not every departure is a loss. Sometimes it is evidence that you are finally becoming who you were meant to be. Another transformation occurs when you learn to master your emotions. Many people live reactively. Their mood changes with every message, every opinion, every setback. Their emotions dictate their decisions. As a result, their environment controls their life. True strength emerges when there is space between what happens and how you respond. In that space lives self-mastery. You still feel anger, but anger no longer controls your actions. You still experience fear, but fear no longer determines your direction. You still feel disappointment, but disappointment no longer destroys your momentum. You become the leader of your emotions rather than their servant. This is one of the greatest forms of power a human being can develop. Because the person who controls themselves becomes extremely difficult to manipulate. Yet mindset alone is not enough. Real confidence requires a foundation. It requires discipline. It requires competence. It requires skills that create independence. Too many people focus on appearing successful rather than becoming valuable. They seek recognition before mastery, attention before achievement, validation before growth. But lasting strength is built quietly. Every book studied, every skill developed, every promise kept to yourself, every difficult task completed when nobody is watching. These small actions accumulate over time. Eventually, they create something powerful: self-respect. And self-respect cannot be purchased, borrowed, or given by someone else. It must be earned through consistent action. As this transformation continues, something unexpected begins to happen. You stop chasing, and life begins to respond differently. You enter rooms without seeking approval. You speak without needing validation. You act without waiting for permission. People notice, not because you're trying harder, but because you're finally authentic. Confidence attracts. Neediness repels. Self-respect inspires respect. Dispassion invite exploitation. The energy you project changes when you no longer depend on others to tell you who you are. The greatest irony is that many of the things people chase begin appearing naturally once the chase ends. Not because the world suddenly becomes kinder, but because they have become stronger. At the end of this journey lies a simple realization. You were never truly searching for approval. You were searching for yourself. Everything you wanted from others was pointing towards something deeper. You wanted to feel worthy. You wanted to feel secure. You wanted to feel complete. But those things were never hidden in another person's hands. They were always waiting inside you. The strongest person is not the one who controls everyone around them. The strongest person is the one who is no longer controlled by the fear of losing them. Walk forward with that understanding. Build quietly. Stand firmly. Protect your peace. Master your emotions. Trust yourself. And remember this. The moment you stop asking the world to define your value is the moment you begin discovering your true power. This is the echo of the soul, and your journey has only just begun.